Good evening, everybody. A number of breaking news stories tonight. The death toll has risen to 21 in the Northern California wildfires. None of those fires has been contained. They continue to rage through wine country. The fires have now destroyed 3,500 homes and businesses. They've consumed more than 160,000 acres. We'll have a full report on the shocking devastation from these fires. They are still spreading tonight. Also tonight, the beleaguered NFL paying a price for disrespecting, insulting our flag, insulting our anthem and our values as a nation. Ratings tanking for the NFL. Commissioner Roger Goodell is only now demanding that players stand. And he's not exactly demanding, he's just saying they should. We'll tell you just how bad things are now for the league and its leaders. And new revelations about the police response to the Las Vegas massacre. A maintenance worker now says he told hotel dispatchers to call police before the shooter began firing from his high-rise suite into the concert below. This is a portion of his call for help.
Call the police. Someone's firing a gun up here. Someone's firing a rifle on the 32nd floor down the hallway.
And critics now say that better communication could have allowed police to respond more quickly, possibly take out the gunman before he committed the deadliest mass shooting in American history. And more. We'll take all of that up here tonight. Our top story, California firefighters unable to gain control of any of the wildfires that have been raging for nearly 3 days now. Weather conditions are not helping the firefighters. More dry conditions, gusty winds in the forecast for tonight and tomorrow. Fox News correspondent Claudia Cowan in Santa Rosa with our report.
The devastation and death toll growing in some of the most destructive and deadliest wildfires in California's history. A bird's eye view of parts of Sonoma County shows entire neighborhoods are completely gone.
This is just pure devastation, and it's going to take us a while to get out and get through and comb through all of this.
Jennifer Broncima and her husband David sorted through the remnants of their home in the hard-hit Coffey Park section of Santa Rosa. While some of their neighbors' homes were spared, theirs was not.
People were going every direction. Trees were down. It was just covered. It was apocalyptic. It was insane. Lived here 13 years. We don't know what the next move is yet.
Among those lost in the fires, 100-year-old Charles P. Trippi and his 98-year-old wife, Sarah. The grade school sweethearts recently celebrated their 75th wedding anniversary. Their family took comfort in the fact that they were together until the end.
Those of us in the family always would, wonder what would happen if one of them died and the other one was still left. And so they went together.
So far this year, 8 million acres have been charred in the West, and that number will grow with new red flag warnings in parts of Northern California. A sharp northern wind known as a Diablo is expected to gust up to 40 miles an hour.
We are expecting some extreme fire behavior and growth of our incidents currently, and that is going to lead us to challenges.
Also facing challenges, California's $58 billion wine industry. Hard-hit Napa and Sonoma are home to 85% of U.S. wines. While the extent of the damage is still unknown, winemakers say they're doing the best they can.
We just kept on doing winemaking the old-style way without, as much as technology and electricity, of course, as we used to.
And as the firefight continues, so does the search for a cause. Officials say it probably wasn't lightning. They say people cause most fires, either intentionally or not. Lou?
Claudia, thank you very much. Claudia Cowan reporting from wine country. President Trump today continuing his cross-country tour, trying to sell the tax cut or tax reform plan. Mr. Trump's latest remarks aimed at the trucking industry in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Our framers will unlock the American dream for millions of our fellow citizens by eliminating tax breaks and special interest loopholes that primarily benefit the wealthy. Our framework ensures that the benefits of tax reform go to the middle class, not to the highest earners. It's a middle class bill. That's what we're thinking of. That's what I want.
And joining us tonight, the newest addition to the Fox family, Laura Ingraham, She'll be hosting the Ingram Angle. It'll air weekdays at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News channel and debuts October 30th. Laura's also the author of a newly released book entitled Billionaire at the Barricades, The Populist Revolution from Reagan to Trump. Laura, great to have you with us.
Good to see you, Lou.
And congratulations on the show and the book. And to my knowledge, the first to connect billionaires and populism in one title. And it is a remarkable story, the Trump saga. It's hard to believe that it hasn't even been a year of his administration with all that has happened, all that he is being challenged by from every quarter. This is just incredible. As you stood there at the convention making that terrific speech, did you anticipate this much accomplishment, this much, if you will, energy directed against him?
Yeah, the pushback I did. I mean, the reason I used barricade in the title, Lou, is because he has the Democrats, of course, against him. He has a lot of the Republicans, as we saw with that nice comment from Bob Corker to the New York Times about World War III. We have a lot of the Republican establishment who are anti-populist. They don't really trust the people. You have the media that they're 24/7 trying to get him out of office. And, of course, you have groups like the Chamber of Commerce and Hollywood and all of that combined working against the populist conservative agenda that he ran on. But a billionaire can have a strong connection to the heart and soul of the American people. We saw Ross Perot. Remember in 1992, he took on 1992 took on George H.W. Bush and racked up, 20+ percentage points in the presidential contest. So this is a long story of populist appeals in politics, but Trump really put it all together in a campaign that was sometimes brash and sometimes kind of like a wrecking ball. But the American people wanted, at times, a bully to bully the bullies because they felt like they'd been kicked to the curb for too long.
What they got is a warrior, and he is a man who absolutely revels in the fight and means to win every damn one of them. And so far, he's got one heck of an average unlike anything I've seen in my entire career. And it's interesting, the national left-wing nut media just can't bring themselves to acknowledge what he's done. Today, he mentioned in the speech in Harrisburg, talking about all assets in this country rising since the election on November 8th, and he's exactly right. You're talking about 25% increases in market indexes. We're talking about record highs for all of them. This is, we're looking at 16-year highs in confidence. We're looking at just a remarkable performance in this economy.
Yeah, but he holds up a mirror, Lou, to the hypocrisy of the left, of the double standards, even in the sports arena with the NFL. And also he calls out the Republicans for failing to do what they've campaigned on for 7 years, which, of course, is Obamacare repeal. And it's very uncomfortable. I mean, we all have flaws. I mean, not you, Lou, but most people, most of us have flaws.
I just assumed you would exempt me from such a generalization.
You're always exempt, Lou. You're always exempt. But it is hard to kind of look in the mirror. We all have to do that on occasion. And like, oh, I didn't handle that quite right, or oh, I could do better. But it seems like the Republicans and the Democrats, the establishment wing of both parties especially, they cannot seem to change their policies. Trump won on the policies. He didn't win because he's a celebrity or because of Comey or even because Hillary was a bad candidate. He won on the issues. And that's what my book documents, on immigration, on less military intervention, on taxes,
just a second.
on all
these things. This gives me a chance. I want to point this out. Billionaire at the barricades, Laura Ingram. I just wanted to make that point, if I may, Laura, on your behalf.
Thank you.
The idea that the Republicans are become, two of them in particular, have become his nemesis, and they are Paul Ryan, a speaker who is not recalcitrant. He is unrelentingly oppositional. He's become somewhat more refined in his tactics. And Mitch McConnell, who is becoming increasingly brutal in his obstructionism. What do you make of them, and how desperate is the nation to replace them?
I have to say, for Paul Ryan, at least he was able to get Obamacare through the House. And he's giving a big speech tomorrow pushing the president's tax agenda. So he's working with the president on taxes. I don't agree with Paul Ryan on everything, but he was fed up with the Senate during the Obamacare push. Mitch McConnell is another story altogether. He never liked Trump. He never was a fan of Trump. He didn't expect him to win. He would much rather have had someone like a Jeb Bush in office. And he's always kind of looked down on the tweeting. And it's like Trump is like a neophyte in politics, and Mitch McConnell is the expert. Well, I'll say this: the experts could not get the job done on the seminal piece of legislation.
They're not experts at anything. Neither one of them has ever done a thing in either the Senate or the House.
It's time to retire for McConnell.
Utterly creations of their own fictional.
Hey, Lou, I have a question for you. Can I ask you a question? Do you think if today Donald Trump ran against Mitch McConnell in a GOP primary, or Bob Corker in Tennessee, if he took on both of those guys in their own states, who watching this tonight doesn't think that Donald Trump would beat both of them like by double digits handily?
Yeah, you could throw in the entire GOP leadership of both the House and the Senate, add up their collective IQs, and President Trump would still win.
Yeah,
that's how I see the fight. Laura, it's great to have you with us. Congratulations on the new book. Congratulations on the new show. It begins 10 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel, October 30th. Laura, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Coming right back with much, much more. Stay with us. President Trump to announce his decision this week on the disastrous Iran nuclear deal.
You're going to see very soon. We're going to be announcing that very shortly.
We'll take up the international impact and the political fallout of decertifying that deal. Ed Rollins joins us tonight. And an alarming report revealing North Korea's efforts to infiltrate our power grid. The rogue regime targeting U.S. power companies with phishing emails. A full report coming up next. Stay with us. We're coming right back. Fake news may face consequences if the president has his way. President Trump today responded to a false NBC report that he contemplated increasing the U.S. nuclear arsenal. President Trump tweeted this, quote, "With all the fake news coming out of NBC and the networks, at what point is it appropriate to challenge their license? Bad for the country." And the president had this to say to reporters.
That was just fake news by NBC, which gives a lot of fake news lately. No, I never discussed. I think somebody said I want 10 times the nuclear weapons that we have right now. General Mattis put out a statement, or is putting out a statement, saying that that was fake news. It's frankly disgusting the way the press is able to write whatever they want to write.
And the president tonight blasting NFL players for insulting the American flag. His latest remarks come in an interview with Sean Hannity, airing later tonight.
I watched Colin Kaepernick, and I thought it was terrible. And then it got bigger and bigger and started mushrooming. And frankly, the NFL should have suspended him for one game, and he would have never done it again. They could have then suspended him for 2 games, and they could have suspended him if he did it a 3rd time for the season, and you would never have had a problem. But I will tell you, you cannot disrespect our country, our flag, our anthem. You cannot do that.
And you can watch more of Sean's interview with the president tonight on Hannity on the Fox News Channel, 9 p.m. Eastern. Well, joining me now, Ed Rollins. He's the chairman of the Great America PAC, esteemed member of the Political Consultant Hall of Fame, and esteemed Fox News contributor. Great to have you here, Ed.
Nice to be with you.
Let's start with the president's remarks there to Sean. I mean, he laid it out just as straightforwardly as it can be said.
Well, you know, these are extraordinary athletes who end up being in the professional football, and they get there by obeying rules. There's rules of the game. There's rules in the game. You're not allowed to beat up your wife or your girlfriend. You're not allowed to drugs. You're not allowed to, you have to practice right. And the one stupid rule that they don't want to deal with, I mean, that they think is such a big issue, is you have to, when you're done exercise, you have to stand up there and salute the flag. And they can't do that. And I think it's the ultimate disrespect.
Well, they choose not to do that.
Well, they choose not to. And they ought to just bust them big time. And they don't want to do it. You know, they don't have to play in the game and go see where they can make the kind of money they make elsewhere.
You know, the rules that you just mentioned, you know, domestic violence, drugs, gun violence, you know, there's about an athlete, an NFL player, a week being arrested for something out of 1,600.
Right.
I mean, that's a remarkable number. And for Goodell to ignore that, to ignore the fact that these players have said nothing about far more, frankly, direct issues. If it's a racial issue, as some seem to want to make it with their Black Panther salutes, or if it's a matter of law enforcement, so many things they could do positively and constructively, but they chose to insult the flag, the anthem, and America. And that's, to me, that's, frankly, it's unforgivable.
Well, it is unforgivable, and I think they're finding very quickly the fans are very upset about that, and I think to a certain extent the viewership is down. And all the other issues that we talked about, this just is the epitome of it, and I think if you don't respect the flag, it's not like a complicated thing. You just have to stand there and respect the flag. That's all you have to do. A flag that allows you to be a professional athlete making an average of $2 billion for every player in the league, and many making much, much more.
And some of these protesters calling that oppression. The ignorance of their expression is just overwhelming. When they look to inner city communities and all that is, that is the essence of the struggle for the very people that many of them are saying they want to represent. It's just incomprehensible. Let's turn to another incomprehensibility, and that is associated with none other than Mitch McConnell. Here is a man who continues to obstruct the president, who continues to disrespect and, in fact, insult the president with his passive-aggressive positions as the leader of the party in the Senate. It's just, to me, it's stunning that somebody is not saying to McConnell, get the hell out.
Well, I've been around for 50 years, and I've worked in a couple White Houses, and even people like other leaders like Bob Dole, who ran against Ronald Reagan and George Bush, and he was the majority leader, carried the program fully and effectively. Howard Baker, the same way, ran against Ronald Reagan, carried the program effectively. And so my sense is when you have a president in the White House who has an agenda, the job of the majority leader is to put the majority together and move the ball forward, and he has not done that.
And McConnell, I mean, I feel sorry for the president, frankly. I commiserate with him because he's out trying to sell tax cuts tonight. He's on the road. He's in Pennsylvania, working hard. By the way, Congress is off on a Columbus week. Did you know there's a Columbus week holiday for the Congress instead of a day? But to see him obstruct this president working so hard and refuse to go to a 51-vote majority for legislation.
Well, they're not going to pass anything, the taxes, health care, any of the rest of it, unless they change that. And a majority should be the ruling factor in the Senate, just as it is in the House of Representatives. And the American public, I'm sure a lot of people don't realize that, and they don't understand that. But the bottom line is if you don't change that rule, you're going to spend the next decade doing nothing here. There's 200 bills that have been passed in the House that can't get through the Senate.
It's stunning. It's stunning. It's a majority leader. There's only one explanation. I mean, he's been bought and paid for by the Chamber of Commerce, the Business Roundtable, and God knows who else. Because he's not representing the people of Kentucky, and he's not representing the American people.
And he's not representing the majority.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he doesn't go just for he would want to represent a 60 seat majority.
Well, you're not going to get a 60-vote majority, and you got to pass some things here to make this more effective for the country. So,
good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
And I disagree slightly with you're not flawless. I've been doing this with you for 10 years now. You're pretty damn close to perfect, but not flawless with Laura. Laura's getting her own show. I don't. So
Laura,
and she's young and smart and articulate. I'm old and crockety, so I.
In that case, I can't wait to watch this argument unfold. Me, blameless in the whole thing. And thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Be sure to vote in tonight's poll. Do you believe the national left-wing media should be held accountable for their lies to the American public? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs tonight. A maintenance worker at the Las Vegas Mandalay Bay says he told hotel dispatchers to call police before shooter Stephen Paddock opened fire on the concert goers below him. Listen to his radio call for help.
Call the police. Someone's firing a gun up here. Someone's firing a rifle on the 32nd floor down the hallway.
Daddy wants to know if you know a room.
It's at the end of the hallway. I can't tell you what room. He looked like he fired down the hallway when I got close to the door.
That worker says he was checking out a report of a jammed fire door on the 32nd floor when he heard gunshots and saw a hotel security guard who had been shot in the leg look out of an alcove and tell him to take cover. 6 minutes passed between the hallway shooting and the shooting began into the concert goers below. On Wall Street, another record day for stocks. The Dow up 42 points, the S&P up 5, the Nasdaq up 16, all at new record highs. Volume on the big board, 2.9 billion shares, and shares of luxury fashion company Coach sinking after announced it's changing its name to Tapestry to reflect the company's many brands. And officials in Cook County, Illinois, voting to repeal their soda tax just a few months after it went into effect. The move, a blow to Michael Bloomberg, who spent $10 million of his money pushing the tax that was enacted and is now, well, it is going to be reversed. A reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast, on the Salem Radio Network. Up next, a story you won't see covered by that national left-wing nut media. We'll have a full report on the corruption trial of Democratic Senator Bob Menendez. Coming up here next. Stay with us. The prosecution has rested in the federal corruption and bribery trial of Senator Bob Menendez. A federal judge will now consider whether to dismiss the charges against the New Jersey Democrat or find him guilty. Fox News correspondent David Lee Miller at the courthouse in Newark with our report.
After 6 weeks of trial and 35 witnesses, the prosecution has rested in the bribery trial of New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez. The final witness for the prosecution was FBI agent Alan Mahl. Prosecutors used the agent's testimony to try and link gifts and hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign contributions from South Florida eye doctor Solomon Melgen that benefited Senator Menendez. In return, Menendez is accused of helping to get visas for the doctor's foreign girlfriends and using his influence to help the doctor in a business deal in the Dominican Republic and an $8.9 million overbilling dispute with Medicare. Senator Menendez's lead lawyer, Abby Lowell, angered the judge when he repeatedly tried to delve into the intricacies of the Medicare bureaucracy and matters the judge deemed not relevant to the case. Outside of the presence of the jury, the judge said, quote, "How stupid do you think the jury and the court are?" Following the conclusion of the prosecution's case, Lowell made a motion for acquittal. He cited a 2016 Supreme Court decision that overturned the bribery conviction of Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. Lowell told the court, quote, "McDonnell's context is very important." Lowell also argued that the case should be dismissed because the prosecution failed to show that Senator Menendez and Dr. Melgen had any agreement to provide political favors in exchange for money or gifts. As he entered the courthouse this morning, Senator Menendez was asked about the case for his defense.
It's a story of a lifetime of service done honorably, hard work and sacrifice, and a commitment to the people of New Jersey, and a long-time friendship with Dr. Melgen.
The judge is expected to rule on the motion to acquit next week. This afternoon, before adjourning court, the judge said at least one of the 12 criminal counts Menendez now faces will be decided by the jury. Lou?
Thank you, David. David Lee Miller reporting. Turning now to the only real collusion that's been found during the entire campaign and election, the House Intelligence Committee today announced plans to release Facebook ads bought by Russians trying to influence the presidential election. Those ads will be made public after the company executives testify on Capitol Hill. They're supposed to be there on November 1st. And new documents showing Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with a Russian lawyer wasn't about, well, Hillary Clinton, after all. Emails between Natalia and publicist Rob Goldstone reportedly show she asked to bring a Russian-American lobbyist because of his knowledge of the Magnitsky Act. In point of fact, as CNN reported, there is nothing whatsoever that implicates Donald Trump Jr. whatsoever. And that is a report by CNN. We're coming right back with much more. Stay with us. The Equifax data breach going from bad to worse. Now we're learning nearly 11 million people had their driver's license numbers compromised. We take up the fallout from one of the largest cyber attacks in U.S. history. Morgan Wright joins us. And these brave wingsuiters aren't satisfied just jumping out of planes, of course. They want to race one. We'll show you their extraordinary stunt right here next. That video, much more, still ahead. We'll be right back. Equifax is one of those brands that may well go down in infamy. The company now saying the driver's license data for nearly 11 million Americans was compromised in that data breach, which was announced last month, but which took place 6 months before that, while the company sat on the information that they had been the victim of a cyber attack revealing the data of 143 million people. This latest report just adding to what has been an extraordinary array of just disgusting failures on the part of this company's management. North Korea is targeting American power companies now and their cyber attacks. The security firm FireEye says North Koreans are sending electric companies so-called phishing emails containing malicious software. So far, no evidence the hackers have been successful, which suggests there is no evidence that they have been, well, defeated by the defenses of those firms either. Joining me now, cybersecurity expert Morgan Wright. Morgan, great to see you again. And
you bet, Lou.
I'm just stunned at the number of cyber attacks, the more that Equifax is revealing, dribbling out, and God knows where it's going to end. But the company has basically been a patsy when it is supposed to have been. It had its brand staked around the ability to protect, defend, and keep private information of consumers and customers.
You know, Lou, when you listen to what some of the reports are coming out, internal people and senior people who quit back in 2012 said that they were one data breach away from going out of business from a major event. Lou, I've decided anymore when I appear and we talk about Equifax, I'm going to wear black and stay in a permanent state of mourning because the American people are just taking it in the shorts over and over again. You and I were talking when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Now it's another 10 to 11 million driver's licenses. When will the other shoe drop? What will we find out when the investigation's completely done? It will get worse, and actually the numbers are going up north of 145 million. So, I mean, this is getting worse every day. It's not getting any better.
And where is the federal government here? Where are the legislators and our Congress and the Senate? And how is it we could have a firm with this much precious private data that is not responsible or cannot be directly held accountable by law for misfeasance, malfeasance, and utter just ridiculous negligence and arrogance on the part of its senior officials?
You know, Lou, when I've testified before Congress, when I worked with some of them, we talked about this. We talked about the accountability, not in government, but in the private sector. And until you pass laws similar to Sarbanes-Oxley, a digital version, your point is right. You can't hold them responsible for malfeasance like this because nobody has to sign on the dotted line. But the minute a CEO worries about having to wear orange and getting perp walked by the FBI into a jail somewhere, you'll start seeing a huge change in how they address this. But the fact that you had senior people quit saying they knew the attitude was they were one data breach away from going out of business, that should tell you everything you need to know about that culture for the last 5 years.
Here's my problem. I'm watching the Department of Defense, the federal government. I'm watching our allies. I'm watching them all be victims, and other major corporations, retail organizations, it doesn't matter, the industry, be victims of cyber attacks. Morgan, are we really saying here right tonight that there is no defense for all of this data and that we need to recognize that and change the way we handle data that we want to keep private and want to protect?
You know, Lou, you're right. There is a time we need to rethink this because what everybody's doing is they think they've got, let's say, 10 houses on their estate, and they want to spread all of their resources to protect all these 10 houses. Well, it's not going to happen anymore. You're going to have to pick the 2 to 3 that are most important and make sure you got a really fast fire department because when they catch on fire, and they will, you want somebody getting there very quickly. The other ones you'll rebuild. We waste too much time and money. And by the way, Lou, cybercrime has gone up 23% this year. All the money they're spending, all the security and awareness training they're doing isn't working because ransomware has increased. All of these spear phishing emails, fortunately, the power companies aren't doing it, but we're seeing a huge increase in ransomware, and the number one way you get it is clicking on a link in your email.
Very quickly, two questions, and they're definitely related. One is, why in the world do so many companies, how can they fail to understand that their email systems have to be separate, divorced, divided by a Chinese wall to whatever is proprietary for that company? Why in the world is that a lesson so difficult for these companies to learn?
They are so far down the path of integrating everything together between directory lists and files and HR systems and everything else. You know, it would make sense to have a separate system for messaging and one to where your intellectual property, everything is behind another firewall. But, you know, I'm afraid they're too far down the path. And look, for them, it's convenience.
Too far down the path? I mean, these idiots are losing information. They're losing data. They're losing I mean, they're being raped in cyber warfare.
Yeah, no, they're losing the battle, but it comes down to spending money, and they look at cybersecurity as a cost center, not a profit center. And until we flip that the way they think about it, they'll keep doing it that way.
And it's time, as Morgan said, for there to be accountability, without question. Morgan, thanks so much. We appreciate your expertise always, and good to see you. Morgan Wright.
Yes, sir. It's you too.
Please roll the video now. We all need to take a little break. This Cessna two-seater has company. Flying side by side. Whoa, what's out there? 3 wingsuiters. Do you see them? I'm looking. I see one. I'm looking. There's one. Above iconic Venice. One devil nearly touched the wing of that plane. I counted 2, not 3, but I'm sure he's up there somewhere. Up next, President Trump bringing the NFL to its knees over players' refusal to respect our flag and their insults to the national anthem and to the nation itself. Pastor Robert Jeffress joins me here next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Joining me now, the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Dallas and author of A Place Called Heaven, Robert Jeffress. Great to have you with us, Pastor. Let's start with the president taking the NFL commissioner and a number of those left-wing owners to their knees.
Well, the president has won this argument, proving once again President Trump has a better feel for the sentiment of the American people than his critics do. And look, Lou, make no mistake about it. We are witnessing the NFL caving on this national anthem issue, not because of patriotism or principle, but because of profit. Nevertheless, I think the president can claim victory for this and move on to this issue of tax reform, just like he's doing, that is so crucial to the success of his agenda.
Yeah, it is tax reform, and I think you're right. Obviously, the president has won the argument. Roger Goodell, I don't know why in the world the owners would keep him, because that is of many blunders. This is the blunder of all blunders. If he were the CEO of anything else other than something that is so just automatically profitable as the NFL, I couldn't imagine him surviving more than days, let alone through the years. Let's turn to tax reform. I worry about this because it's clear that McConnell means to defeat this effort on the part of the president again. It's clear that McConnell will not go to the 51-vote rule. It means that the entire Republican agenda, the president's agenda, will not come to pass.
Well, that is certainly the plan. And just today, you had Mitch McConnell trying to appease conservatives like myself over our fury over the Republican Senate not confirming more of the president's judicial appointments. I first brought this up on your show a few weeks ago. I've talked to the president about the fact that they are slow walking these confirmations because of these arcane Senate rules. And Lou, I believe if Mitch McConnell, Bob Corker, and the rest of this Republican establishment fails to pass President Trump's tax reform plan, there's going to be hell to pay for that.
Well, there ought to be hell to pay for that. And Steve Bannon is talking about challenging every vulnerable senator running. But I hate to see it have to wait that long. I mean, if the man had any dignity or self-respect, he'd get out of the way. But instead, he means to be an obstacle in the worst way. And he has his wife working in the administration. I mean, it's stunning. It's sickening, really.
Well, I don't think any Republican is going to be safe from the wrath of President Trump or the American voters if they continue to paralyze and slow walk the president's agenda, and they shouldn't be immune from either.
I want to turn very quickly to this issue of a movement versus business in Washington to drain the swamp. This movement has not had a boost here of late. I'm talking about the Trump movement, and it needs a rallying point. What do you think of as a rallying point, getting rid of all of these senators who are rhinos and who are obstructionists? And for that matter, those in the House as well. That includes, frankly, Paul Ryan.
Well, I think there is a movement afoot to do that, but Lou, I think it's part of a bigger movement in our country right now. I think after the hurricanes, the wildfires, the Las Vegas massacre, people are tired of negativity, and they're tired of us not making the progress we need to make as a nation. And I think anyone who continues to be a purveyor of negativity and to stall this agenda that we so desperately want to see fulfilled is going to be dealt with. Look, 63 million Americans voted for President Trump and his agenda, which is really our agenda. Absolutely. And by the way, it's a great agenda. Mitch McConnell just doesn't understand that and should pay, I think, a considerable price for not understanding it. Pastor Robert Jeffress, good to have you with us as always. Up next, President Trump attacking the Dems on tax cuts.
Sadly, the Democrats have become obstructionists. They want to stop. They don't want to do anything productive. They want to raise your taxes very, very substantially. They are good at obstruction.
Katie Freitas, Charlie Hurt, join us next, right after the break. We'll be right back. In our online poll last night, we asked, do you believe the NFL owners should give Roger Goodell a contract extension? 96% of you say no. Joining us tonight, Olympic media managing editor of the Daily Caller, Katie Freitas, and Washington Times opinion editor, Fox News contributor, Charlie Hurt. Thank you both for being here.
Good to be with you, Luke.
Let's start with the NFL. Nothing has captured the public imagination with such energy as this issue over the last month or so. Katie, the president has scored an immense victory here, has he not?
Well, I don't know. I think it kind of comes out as a lose-lose for everyone, though, in the sense that if you're staunch left or you're staunch right, all this did was solidify that everyone hates everyone, and this is just another sticking point for all of us to glare at each other and fold our arms and scowl. So I think I would say, though, that with Trump's pressure and, of course, the pressure coming from everyone on subscribing and refunds.
Can I ask just a question?
Please, go for it.
I mean, what about players insulting the national anthem, the flag? You know, the country. Do you think that should go without comment, should be permitted?
No, absolutely not. And I
well,
think
there
it is
you
good
are.
that
You're scowling.
I think what has finally transpired, Goodell finally getting up and saying this isn't okay, is a good thing, and I'm happy it's gotten to this point.
He really
However, I will say
Goodell has been talking out of both sides of his mouth.
Well, right. So I would say, Lou, that this is more monetary than it is a concern for any greater noble
personally,
good.
I don't know about you, Charlie. I think that there are millions of folks who will never look at another NFL game because they know what the players think of everyone.
I think, I think there's no doubt about it. And you know, I do think that it has been a tremendous victory for the president. And the reason is because, you know, his job is to kind of be the nation's cheerleader, to be the sort of, you know, to work from use the bully pulpit to promote America, to promote patriotism, all these things. And of course, everybody just went, you know, as usual, he goes and picks at something that nobody is paying attention to. He goes out there, he picks a fight with them, and then he utterly humiliates all of them. And I think that is, I agreed, I think it's a very, very good thing. So, you know, from a political standpoint, from a political, like, running a campaign sort of standpoint, he probably doesn't win any new votes doing it, but it's a great thing that he did. And all the people that supported him, that like him, they're just so glad there's somebody swashbuckling around in the swamp, calling names and humiliating the people that are doing
but
real
you know
damage
what's important
to this
here too? I agree, but there's something more. He's changing things. He's actually doing things. This
Could you
isn't
imagine
just
Obama doing
an
something like
animated
that?
argument? This is about changing conduct and changing direction and honoring values, and that's a big, big deal in my opinion. Katie, Harvey Weinstein and the left, what have they become? Have they been this for decades? Really? Bill Clinton accused of rape, Weinstein accused of rape. It takes, you can't find a village to criticize these left-wing celebrities and politicos.
Well, I don't think anyone is, and this is sad, I don't think anyone's overly shocked that there's a disgusting man with a large amount of power in Hollywood who is wielding it over women to get what he
What's
wanted.
the surprise got to do with it?
And that should become surprising because it should not be common, and this is disgusting. But it's not that Hollywood didn't know. They were joking about this at 2013. They've known about this for a long time, and all these people who say they're feminists and say they uphold
Wait a minute,
women
what happened to
didn't
the
do
war
anything.
on women, Katie? What happened to the war
they're happy
on
to
women?
keep their mouths shut when it's dirty and it hits close to home.
I think you've got it. Katie, thanks so much. Katie Freitas,
Thanks.
Charlie Hurt, thank you both. Appreciate it. Good seeing you. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Colonel Tony Schaefer, among our guests here tomorrow. Please join us. Good night from New York.